Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Marta Ayala, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. As a reminder, I do every video in English and Spanish, and the degree theory is based on modern Western astrology using the Placidus house system. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about Chiron and how it's going to ingress on June 19th, which is 4 days from now, because I'm filming this on June 15th. Now, Chiron itself is not part of the degree theory, so we cannot apply it, okay? But I still wanted to do a video to give you guys a heads up because this one is going to be important, as well as when Saturn goes into Taurus, which will be at the end of April of 2028. Both of them are going to be in Taurus. So, let's start with a little bit of historical perspective, and then I'll do the ascendant by ascendant. So Chiron left Aries after an 8-year cycle, which is the longest stay because Chiron doesn't stay in every sign for the same amount of time. Okay, Virgo only gets it for like a year and a half or something like that. Aries gets it the longest, right? So now Chiron is going to move on, like I said, June 19th. Chiron is going to enter Taurus, but only through September 18, 2026. So it's what, 3 months? It's going to give us a preview, and then it goes retrograde back to Aries for the fall and part of the winter. And then Chiron re-enters Taurus on April 14th of 2027 through June 19th of 2033. And then it goes forward to Gemini and then back to Taurus on October 23rd, 2033 through May 5th, 2034. The last time that Chiron was in Taurus was 1984. So think back to the Jimmy Carter days, the long gas lines, the super high mortgage rates that were from 18 to 20%. Um, the time previous to that, it was the Great Depression here in the United States, and that was from 1926 through 1934. So this placement of Chiron is not the best financially speaking. The material ownership, what we need, what we want, what we value in a physical material way, is going to be the focus of this transit. Now, it includes not only assets that we eat, I mean that not, it includes not only the assets that we have, but also what we eat. So during this transit of Chiron, Chiron, of course, is a since in Taurus, is ruled by Venus, and Venus is money. It's also love, but this Chiron, it's usually a financial, something, some kind of financial wound that you have, or like self-esteem. Now, astronomers really don't know what Chiron is. Is it an asteroid? Is it a dwarf planet? Depending on where you look, you get different information and they go back and forth. So they're not sure, right? Um, we in astrology view it as an asteroid, and it was discovered in 1977 while it was transiting through Taurus. So it's called the Wounded Healer. And the mythology, just a little historical thing, right? It's a centaur who was rejected by his mother. So it's a wound that doesn't heal. Now, Chiron was a healer and he could heal other people, but he just couldn't heal himself after being shot with a poison arrow. So Chiron asked the gods to make him mortal so that he could die and end his pain. So Chiron will be in Taurus. So wounds, traumas, insecurities about money, finances, material possessions, what we eat, and also physical wounds that cannot heal. If it's in Taurus, we're talking about the throat area, right? Like your vocal cords, your thyroid. Um, the bone here is the clavicle. So this area, right? Tonsils, anything having to do with the throat area. Um, maybe relating to money, maybe it's a hard time earning money, or maybe um, you're never satisfied with how much money you have. So it's okay, Sahara, I am working. Okay. Sahara's here. Um, so how, it's the question of like how much money do you feel secure? Like how much money do you have to have in the bank to feel like, oh, okay, I'm good, like I have enough, I'm satisfied. How many properties do you need to own? Do you really need a fancy car to feel good about yourself, right? Um, what gives you security? So we are going to look at our savings, our investments, our retirement plans. Do you have an IRA, a pension, a 401k? How much does it take to make you feel safe, right? So historically, from 1977 to 1984, the US hit a recession. There was the Iranian Revolution. Unemployment rates were 11%. Again, think back to the Jimmy Carter days, the long gas lines, the super high interest rates. If you're old enough, right? If you're not, then talk to your parents, okay? From 1926 to 1934, we had the stock market crash of 1929, the Great Depression, and the Dust Bowl related to the crops, right? And if you go back to American history in 12th grade, you see pictures of the long soup lines, for people because there wasn't enough to eat. Going back to that period of time, unemployment rates went from 3.2% in 1929 to 25% in 1933. The GDP, the gross domestic product, fell 29% during those years, so the same time frame. Consumer prices fell 25% and wholesale prices fell 32%. One third of the banking system failed between 1930 and 1933. And the Dust Bowl created food shortages, the soup lines. So fast forward to today, we already have the lack of fertilizer because of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. Although last night, I saw that President Trump announced that the strait was open, that they had reached a peace deal or a peace treaty between Iran and the United States. So let's see if this holds, I have my doubts, but that's a subject for another video. So, does this mean that we're going to have the same exact things happen? Not necessarily, but there are common themes in both periods, right? It's a time of financial stress. Um, the planetary cycles, of course, for each period were different. They're not exactly the same. So, but it's about finances, so you get the picture. You need to start planning now, to start saving now, so that you fare this. And it's about a 6.5 year transit, the bulk of it, right? This summer, we're going to get a taste. So just take note of the stuff that happens. So let's move on to the food aspect of the transit, right? We are going to have to heal the earth. It is said that Taurus is the ruler of the earth. So we are going to have to heal it. the food that we eat, the GMO thing has to go, right? The genetically modified food. Yeah, you can feed more people, but you're poisoning us, right? Um, so we need to focus more on organic foods, more local grown foods, less pesticides. And we should start to grow our own food, our own herbs. And actually, you can start using herbs, excuse me, as to try to heal some of your physical disorders, right? And there are doctors that dedicate themselves to this. I don't remember now what they're called, but alternative ways to heal or to complement the medical portion of whatever it is that's not working correctly. We're going to focus on nutritional insecurities, issues with eating disorders or weight loss disorders. Um, this Ozempic thing, look at all the side effects that people are having. I mean, it's causing a lot of cancers. I mean, it's a total mess, right? If it took you 20 years to gain the weight, don't expect to lose it in 6 months. It's just not natural, right? And I'm guilty, right? Because I used to be a lot lighter. Um, and I have an extra 20 pound on me that I could lose. But, I need to get it together as well. And like I said, so weight loss disorders are going to be also the focus. Um, Now, remember I told you the Taurus rules the throat, the tonsils, the thyroid, the vocal cords, your voice. So you need to speak up. Some people have a wounded voice because they don't say what they need to say when they need to say it. So you need to learn, of course, always with respect, but you need to stand your ground, right? Now, there can also be environmental issues that we need to address, like air pollution, chemicals that go into our water system, the mini plastic components that can be found in our food, oil spills, chemical spills, gas spills. And this is worldwide. This is not just the US. So if you live close to nuclear sites, the new data centers that are being built near chemical factories, you need to pay attention because those industries are poisoning the earth or creating issues. So, be mindful of where if you're going to buy a place, um, once the real estate crashes when the nodes go into Capricorn and Cancer, that's when you're going to see the foreclosures because the South Node is going to be in Cancer to lose. Cancer is home, a house, an apartment, a living structure. Um, you know, Make sure that you research and you know where the data centers are in the area that you want to buy so you don't get any surprises and you do your research on what are the plans that the city council has for that part of town that you want to live in. Now, Chiron will square Jupiter in Leo in the month of July. And the degrees that are going to be affected is from 0 to 6 degrees. Okay. Chiron will also square Pluto in the month of July 2028. The Chiron square Jupiter in Leo is going to be July of 2026, but the Chiron square Pluto is going to be July of 2028, and it'll be from 0 to 4 degrees. So if you have planets in the early degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, this is going to apply to you. Okay, this is going to be the Chiron square Pluto. And remember that the transit is 6.5 years, but the square is only, for a little bit of time. Now, when Chiron conjuncts Saturn in Taurus in 2028, it will also be squaring Pluto in Aquarius. And that's when I believe that the stock market is going to crash because by that time, we are going to have Saturn in Taurus. So you see where I'm getting, and this is not meant to scare you. This is to give you, what, like a year and a half, almost 2 years to get yourself ready to like save money, pay down your debts, um, that's historically when Pluto squares Saturn, and we're going to have Chiron in Taurus. We're going to have Saturn in Taurus, and Pluto is in Aquarius. It's a stock market crash. There will be corrections in the stock market. I think actually the fall of this year of 2026, September, October, we might have a correction. But it's not a crash. It will recover. But in 2028, it's a different story. So now, for putting the stock market aside, right? We could also have some kind of ecological disaster, or maybe it's just a financial crisis, or something along those lines. And this is between June of 2028 through December of 2028. Now, Chiron is going to conjunct Saturn from June of 2028, and Chiron will conjunct Pluto 5 times over the next 3 years, from 2028 through 2030. Because, Pluto goes direct, and then it goes retrograde, and then it goes direct, and it goes. So the dates are for the exact conjunction: July 9th of 2028, October 24th of 2028, and June 2nd of 2029, December 9th of 2029, and April 28th of 2030. So that's when this is going to happen. Now, from November 8th through November 9th of 2029, Jupiter will oppose Chiron at around 9 degrees of Scorpio. All right, so you Scorpios out there at 9 degrees, November 8th and 9th, 2029, make a note. The Chiron return for people born between 1977 and 1984, this is your moment to understand what wound you have from childhood that needs to be addressed. And it happens around age 50. So you guys, anybody that's turning half century, there you go. This is when Chiron is doing the return. Now, the house where Chiron is located in your natal chart will give you a clue. Also, you need to look at what aspects does your Chiron have, okay? For example, if it's a square to the moon, maybe you have wounds from your family, from your mother, right? If it's square to Venus, money and love issues, and you get the picture, right? So now let's take a look at ascendant by ascendant, all right? And I have the wheel here. Here you go. So for Aries, you have Chiron in the second house. This transit, Aries, you've been getting bombarded, You went through the lunar nodes 2 years ago, and now you have Saturn and Neptune in your sign, and now Chiron is going into Taurus, your second house, your money house. So you need to take a good look at your financial situation. What childhood wounds do you have concerning money? Maybe your upbringing, money was tight, you struggled. Maybe the basics were covered, right? Like, a roof over your head, food on the table, but it wasn't to the point that you had any extras, right? Are you saving for retirement? Are you investing? What about your debts? Because because this Chiron in Taurus, right? We're talking about Aries is opposing your eighth house, your debts. Um, Maybe this is a time where you're comparing yourself to your peers, right? Like, oh, my, people from high school or people from college, they have fancy cars and I don't. Yeah, because Aries always wants to be number one. Aries is very competitive. Um, if you are doing better or the same as your peers, then you're okay. But if you're worse off, you're not going to feel good about yourself. So what do? You make a budget. You have to stick to the budget. Have a plan. And by the end of the transit, 6.5 years later, you're going to feel completely different. Um, Aries is looking for when this Chiron transits the second house, Taurus. Aries is looking for security, for stability. I mean, financially speaking, right? What about what you eat? Are you going to clean up your diet by letting go of fast food, sugar, fried foods, the stuff that's not good for you, right? All right, for Taurus. For Taurus, Chiron is going to be in your sign. So it's in your first house. So question for you is, your wounds are around your identity, your appearance, how people see you. Do you need to wear the nicest perfumes, the nicest clothes to feel good about yourself? Or maybe you need to drive a really expensive car or wear a lot of jewelry to show off, to impress people with all of your assets. Um, Maybe you can be thinking about plastic surgery to improve your appearance, because remember, first house is you, the body, right? Um, but when it's the first house, it is squaring your career and it's squaring your fourth house, your home, right? So, how do you feel about your family roots? Did you come from a humble, poor family and now you made it big in your career? Your public status eh, has gone, really phenomenal. And maybe you are ashamed of your family because they were poor when you were young, or they still are poor and you don't want to deal with that. So you need to take a look at what you want to change about your physical appearance and about your career and your family, because that's the square. The opposition is the seventh house. So do you need to be with somebody that has money and has power and all that, but doesn't give you the time of day? You know, you need to reassess that. Where are the wounds that you need to go and try to heal them? Now, Gemini. For Gemini, the Chiron and Taurus is in the 12th house. So these are old wounds about feeling isolated, about feeling alone, um, separated from your friends, from your family. Did you have to go it alone doing something that you wanted to accomplish? For example, like college, you went to the university and you had no support. Um, so it makes it more difficult. The other thing is with the 12th house, this placement could be talking about a past life experience, because 12th house, rules past lives. So ways to heal that, a meditation, spirituality, soul searching, a past life regression. Also, 12th house rules secrets. Is there a secret that you're keeping that you want to let it out and confront the person that hurt you? Confront the person that gave you that wound of insecurity, right? Um, or is there a secret love or a secret business, perhaps, because um, 12th house is everything that is hidden. So this is where love affairs happen, right? 12th house. Now, for Cancer, this transit happens in your 11th house, right? So for Cancer, um, this one is about not, it's an energy about not fitting in with your friends, with your social group, with your professional groups, because you're very different. And this is coming out over 6.5 years. This is where the healing needs to take place. Have you been wearing a mask just to fit in with your friends? Because if they found out the way you really are, perhaps you would lose them. For example, let's say that you're 35 and you have a porcelain doll collection, or you collect stuffed animals and you're a guy, um, or you collect something that's, from your childhood, like doll houses or something like that. Um, and you're keeping that a secret because you're scared that if they found out, then, they would say, oh my God, this person is like so weird, right? But this transit with Chiron in the 11th can make you feel like an outsider. It can make you feel alone, and this needs to be healed. Okay. Um, I remember Winnie the Pooh when it used to say, "Be yourself," right? Like, don't let other people bully you or make you feel guilty about about being who you are, right? Um, You don't need people like that where you need to walk on eggshells just to have a group, to have somebody, to fit in somewhere. Um, or haven't you heard also like wait until we get married. I'm going to change him or I'm going to change her. That's usually something that females say, oh, I'm going to change him. You can't. The marriage is going to fail. You need to accept people for who they are, right? And people need to accept you for who you are. Now, this friend situation, don't give in to peer pressure. You're unique. Everybody is different. And, if you need people around you that you need to change and wear a mask and not be yourself, then those are not the people that you need to have around you. Okay. Leo. For Leo, Chiron, Chiron is happening, the transit is happening in your 10th house. So this is the house of career and public reputation. This is something about your career that you're ashamed of. Um, you know, Leo likes to be the center of attention. It's one of the leaders of the zodiac sign. According to the degree theory, there are three leaders, right? Aries, Leo, and Capricorn. So, Leo, you are one of the leaders. Now, is it that maybe you were praised by your supervisor and now someone else took the spotlight, right? Like they replaced you as the center of attention? Or perhaps you got a position that you really don't think you were the best choice and you're faking it until you make it, right? Have faith in yourself. Leo has the ability to succeed in whatever it wants to do, okay? Eh, Learn whatever it is that you need to do and heal that inadequacy feeling, right? Like maybe you need to take a course or maybe you need to brush up on, I don't know, Excel skills or leadership training course. Also, remember 10th house is also about your reputation, the way society sees you. Perhaps there's a stigma because you're going through a divorce, because your spouse was cheating on you, and you're like, nope, that's it, we're done. Um, and this can very well happen when the nodes go into Aquarius and Leo, and it'll happen shortly. I'm not saying that every Leo is going to get divorced. I'm not saying that, but when the nodes change to your sign, and Leo is the south node, so you are going to release something in the next 18 months. I mean, hopefully this is not your case, right? You can turn this around. Um, Actually, why don't you make a study group or a healing group and how you survived, finding out that your spouse was cheating on you or something like that. Go to a support group if that's your case, which again, I hope that it's not. But otherwise, just take whatever it is that makes you feel inadequate at work. And like I said, take a course, Excel, maybe try to get a mentor at work, somebody that can help you out, somebody that you can trust, which nowadays, I don't know, it's kind of hard, but anyway, it's doable. All right, Virgo. Virgo, your transit with Chiron in Taurus happens in your ninth house, which, this is, I guess, one of the better placements. Um, This house deals with religion, your beliefs, your philosophy in life. So, are you dealing with a religious wound, a philosophical wound? Perhaps your religion is your parents, and you really aren't with it, you know? You feel guilty or ashamed that your spiritual beliefs are different than your family's, right? Maybe you should be honest about your spirituality and just be straight up. Listen, I don't need to, I don't need to belong to this religion, whatever it is, right? I have faith in God or the creator or the divine, but I don't need to be labeled as a Christian, as a Jew, as a Muslim, as a whatever, fill in the blanks, right? You have your own beliefs and your own faith and just be cool with that, right? You need to do some soul searching and have your own connection with the divine, with God, and not necessarily how you were brought up to believe, because if you don't do this, you're going to be, you know, I was raised Catholic, right? And there's like, oh, purgatory, or you're going to go to hell, or you're going to go. Who knows, right? So just you need to be good with whatever you believe. You do good to other people, who help whoever you need to help, and just move on. Libra. For Libra, this Chiron happens in your eighth house. So, eighth house rules debts, sex, how you will die, pregnancy, your fears. This transit is a difficult one because it's the eighth house. Perhaps there are wounds from having a miscarriage or an abortion or not being able to get pregnant. Now, according to the degree theory, if you have Neptune in the eighth house, one of the meanings is potentially a miscarriage. So know that. And it wasn't anything that you did to have the miscarriage. It's just a fated thing, right? Abortions are usually Pluto, and that, it is what it is. So this transit can also have you thinking about death. What happens after we die? Is there really another place that we go? Is there such a thing as reincarnation? Um, these are all like deep questions about deep subjects that you may have a wound. You may fear dying, but everybody's going to die. There's just no other way. So be at peace with yourself, right? Like I said, don't hurt people. Try to help whoever you can and just try to do good in the world. Now, on the financial end, debt. Do you feel guilty or wounded because you have a lot of debt and because you are being supported by someone else, whether it's your parents, your spouse, your lover, your partner? Um, you know, how do you try to fix that by saving money and paying them off, right? Because if you're still being supported by your parents and you're not a kid anymore, like you're in your 30s or your 40s, you might feel a little bit, not that great, right? But you need to go back and review what led you to be in this situation. And this is something that you can heal. The financial stuff you can heal. The fear of death or the pregnancy issues and stuff like that, that one's a little bit more difficult. But know that, like I said, with Neptune in the eighth, there's a risk of miscarriages. Pluto in the eighth is abortion. Um, so, maybe go for some therapy. Try to talk to somebody that can help you with this, okay? Now, for Scorpio, Chiron is in your seventh house, or will transit the seventh house. So this deals with old wounds, old hurts, and long-term relationships related to love and business. And even like really old friends that we've had from like grade school, from college. Um, were you betrayed in a relationship and this created some insecurity, some wound, you're jaded basically. Um, these people might actually come back around. Why? Because some of those relationships need to be healed so you can move forward. Um, Kind of like fix the issue, clear the space so someone new can come in. Because if you still have hangups that your significant other cheated on you, and then you're looking for like, oh, is he or she going to cheat on me with this new, like this new person that I met? Is he or she going to do the same thing that the other one did or whatever? You got to give the new person a chance. Not everybody's a cheater. Not everybody's a liar. So some of these people can come around again so that you can clear that wound and then you can move forward. Um, or with a seventh house, it can be your spouse, the one that's going through some relationship healing. Or maybe it's someone that who you have a close one-to-one relationship with. Maybe it's one of those long-term friends that's going through a situation and you're there to support them. Just remember that it's not your problem, it's their problem. You're there to assist, but don't take on the problem. Everybody has to be their own cheerleader, okay? You can be on the sidelines, but don't take it over. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, this transit happens in your sixth house. So, um, health, what you eat, um, exercise routines, your work, your daily routines. Um, so this can actually translate to actual healing, right? What bad habits do you need to drop? Eating big portions, eating sweets. Also, healing how you feel about the work that you do. Are you providing good service? Do you feel good about the work you do? Or is it just a paycheck, right? Um, and there's a wound or vulnerability about you rather be doing something else. If that's the case, then try to find a job that you actually enjoy. Or maybe this healing potential is going to happen with a coworker. Maybe you guys had a fallout. Someone said something about you that wasn't true, and now you want to straighten it out, right? Um, and just confront the person and air it out, clear the space and move on. So that's another situation that can happen. For Capricorn, and for Capricorn, well, actually going back to Sagittarius, for the health portion, of course, you could always go to the doctor, ask for a or a nutritionist, a dietitian, and ask for a meal plan and try to get your health back in place. Now, Capricorn. Capricorn, this transit happens in your fifth house. So this is trying to heal a relationship with your children, especially your firstborn, because fifth house is firstborn. This is also the house of romance, fun, creative hobbies. Do you have a wound with an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? Did someone did you dirty, right? And it's still in your head. How could this person lie? How could this person cheat on me? Do you feel guilty about with Capricorn, it's all about work, right? So do you feel guilty when you have the opportunity of having fun, of going on vacation because work is always on your mind, or making money is on your mind, right? Like fifth house rules, high school. Anything bothering you from that era that now a 10-year or 20-year reunion is coming up, and maybe you were bullied in high school because of the way you looked or the way you acted. Um, or maybe there's a wound because you decided not to have any children. And there's some vulnerability because you chose different than what your family wanted. And at family reunions, the subject keeps coming up, right? Oh, if you would have only have given me a grandchild or whatever, right? And it's something that keeps coming up. So those are the areas where this Chiron can have an effect on you. Aquarius. Aquarius, this transit is happening in your fourth house. It's turned Chiron, right side up. Okay, so Chiron is going through your fourth house. So this involves deep family wounds, especially with your parents. Perhaps you were raised by your grandparents or your aunt, or maybe your father wasn't around, or your mom was a single mom who had to work all the time to make ends meet, or maybe your mom was not in the picture. There's something about your family background that still hurts you emotionally. So now this is the opportunity to heal, mend that wound, whether it's confronting that parental figure or maybe just forgiving them and understanding that they had some kind of like, mental illness, or other issues that they just couldn't be the parent that you wanted them to be. Um, because sometimes, when you get a divorce, right, the it's usually, well, it could be either the man or the woman, right? One parent becomes single and the other parent becomes a single parent, right? So that affects the child. And there's always this wound about not having that other parental figure involved in their lives. So if you are young and you have children and you have gone through a divorce, make sure you don't do that to your kids. Okay? Just because you divorce your husband or your wife doesn't mean that you divorce the children as well. Okay? Now, the fourth house also talks about the actual physical structure where you live. Maybe you wish you had a nicer place, a nicer furniture, a nicer neighbor. Um, or maybe you're ashamed of where you live because the area of town is not the best. Are you proud of where you live? Are you proud of your family roots? All of this Chiron may, bring up. All right, finally, Pisces. For Pisces, this happens, Chiron is going to be in your third house. So here, Pisces, the wounds can come up from early childhood. Third house is um, to age 6 or 7. So the wounds come from early childhood, your education, your knowledge. Um, do you feel maybe there was a learning disability that no one noticed? Or maybe you didn't fit in with your peers in grade school. were you made fun of or bullied when in your early years? Maybe a teacher said that you weren't smart enough to understand the subject, or maybe even a parent said that to you. So this is the area that's going to come up, and you need to work with those past traumas. Because sometimes adults make the mistake of calling a kid stupid. Oh, you're so stupid. You're never going to get anywhere in life. You're lazy. Adjectives like that, that you don't know how much of an impact that will have on a child. Especially if you are a teacher, I hope to God that you never say that to one of your students. Um, the other thing is perhaps you have a sibling or an extended family member that's going through some kind of issue, and you are going to be their support system. Just remember that the problems are theirs, right? You are just there to assist. All right. All right. So with this, I conclude the transit of Chiron through Taurus. I hope that this information has been helpful. If so, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and send it to somebody else that it may help. As always, if you would like a chart reading with me, please send me an email to amaastrology@aol.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.